I had been meaning to see the much awaited Mani Ratnam film Ponniyin Selvan, and I'm super late to the party, but now I have finally seen it. Unfortunately, my first experience of it was watching it on my TV and not in theaters. And trust me, I really badly wanted to watch it in the cinema hall, but circumstances just did not let me. But anyway, I am here to talk about Mani Ratnam's extremely complex and ambitious opus Ponniyin Selvan Part 1 without spoilers. Yes, this is a completely spoiler free review, so let's begin. Now, speaking of complex, this film is really complex. It's one of those movies filled with exposition and it still somehow works for me. And you really have to pay attention to every dialogue in this movie, else you will get lost because everything being said is vital to the plot and understanding what is happening and why it is happening. And I don't think it's just the exposition, but also you'd probably have to know quite a bit of the actual history in order to really get a grasp of who certain characters are, what they're from, what side they're on. And honestly, one of the only and primary reasons I was able to keep track of what was going on in the movie was because my dad knew a lot about the actual history, so he would explain to me the lore and the historical facts that the story is actually based on, allowing me to keep track of everything. But I really did wish the film had more moments of visual storytelling because I feel like many scenes would have had a greater impact of being told to us mainly or purely through the use of visuals. The sheer amount of exposition made me view everything at a distance without letting me get too connected with the characters, which I wish would have happened and maybe would have made the film better. The ambitiousness in not just the storytelling, but the scale is very evident here. The exterior plot is extremely dense with tons of characters and many of them having their own ambitions to plot and overthrow the people in power of their own kingdom, but also the rulers of enemy kingdoms and how enemies of enemies join hands to topple their opponents. It really is engaging as you're always wanting to know what will happen next and whether certain characters will actually achieve their goals. The plot is unfolding slowly, taking its time to unravel its characters and their motivations, giving us more reason to be invested in their own personal and individual intentions. Again, it's not even close to poor storytelling, but I just feel like because of the dense nature of the plot, my experience was more of me figuring out what was going on and why, rather than me having any sort of emotional engagement to the story. And this film looks gorgeous. Cinematography Ravi Varman paints the screen as if it was his canvas. Many times the characters are bathed in the golden yellows of the treasures and the riches that they're always surrounded by. In many scenes, the primary source of light is coming just from one direction, and it gives the scene this extremely dramatical tone that just really works for the film. I like that this film knows and acknowledges that Aishwarya Rai and Trisha are some of the most beautiful women to have graced this planet, and that is even reflected in the lighting. In many scenes with Nandini, there's only light shining on her face. It gives her this ethereal quality, as if she's beautiful beyond comprehension. The filmmaking too is solid. One of the scenes that stood out to me was in the opening scene where Curry Cullen circles around his enemy as the camera moves with him from a low angle, visually showing his command and power in this very scene. And many times we see the camera whoop around the actors' faces with this sense of unpredictability. And it feels a little Malik esque, but not enough for it to be an actual style for this film. But I wasn't a huge fan of the editing of the fight scenes, purely because of the unnecessary amount of cuts. The frequent cutting rarely ever allowed me to really register the action I saw on screen, and before I could, I was watching another cut. It really threw me off guard more than really experiencing a fight scene. Plus, sometimes it felt really staged to me, which took me out of the immersive experience the film had so easily built. In some rare moments where an action scene would not cut for more than 3 seconds, there would be a huge sense of relief for me. The real physical impact of a hit or a stab wasn't as hard hitting as I would have liked for them to be. In a scene where we see the tortured Prince Aditya Karikalan talking about his history with Nandini and how it scarred him permanently, the choice of portraying his emotions was interesting. The camera zips around hazily as Aditya narrates, along with the flashbacks to show what he's talking about. And I feel like this camera movement is supposed to visually portray his instability, but it just did not work for me too well. The parts where it cuts to the past in slow motion was really effective though. A.R. Rahman's score also lends a soul to the film. My personal favorite song is Punni as we see Karti's character beginning his adventure, and Nandini's theme is also one of my favorites, as it lends not just elegant and graceful, but ethereal and vicious quality to it, which is a perfect representation of her character, as her beauty masks her true cunning and manipulative side that only few are aware of. And Aishwarya Rai encapsulates this to the T. She gives my favorite performance in the movie, followed by Vikram's convincing performance as the emotionally tortured prince. Trisha too is a fantastic character who's not just gorgeous but also someone who lives up to the expectation of her brilliance in politics as we see through her decisions. And our somewhat protagonist Vallavaran is superbly portrayed by Karthi as he lends this character this devilish charm as he's pretty smooth with the stunning women he meets in his journey. Even Kamal Hassan's opening narration was a nice little detail. But easily the best aspect of this movie is getting to understand and explore the characters and their hidden agendas, and knowing and empathizing with certain characters as it touches upon themes of aspirations, guilt, jealousy, and unfulfilled love. The political conspiracies and ulterior motives of every person is really what drives this film. This isn't a mass movie, so to speak. It doesn't take a break for a star to really deliver epic dialogues, and nothing against that. But this really isn't that kind of movie, despite what you might be led to believe, considering this is a large scale movie with some of the biggest and well known actors in Tamil cinema. Mani Ratnam and team are in wonderful form. Despite of the film's few shortcomings, it really worked for me. The film ended on an interesting cliffhanger that made me question many things, while also getting me intrigued to see how things unfold in part 2. I know that this film is definitely closer to the readers of the novel Ponniyin Selvan, but these were my thoughts on the story adapted on film. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You can now watch the film on Amazon Prime Video. Thank you for watching this video. Support the channel and it would really mean a lot to me. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.